Very warm welcome to Amishakil 5858. I am Ahmed Ushakal. Following are the latest news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African and Australian news channels and all other news agencies. So please, let's go to the news.
Tonight, War and Peace, things fall apart as hope for a peace deal hits serious snags. Russia's deadly strikes on Ukraine's capital overnight, killing 12 and injuring dozens more, one of the worst in nearly a year. President Trump speaking out against Russia, calling on President Putin to stop, while trying to salvage a deal, what he said at the White House, as Ukraine resists American pressure to make major concessions. Nearly 100,000 mourners come to pay final tribute to the Pope inside the funeral preparations and plans for the conclave to replace him. Tom Yamas, live from the Vatican. Our exclusive new poll, nearly 100 days into the Trump administration, why Gen Z says they're struggling to make ends meet in the Trump economy. And inside their startling divides, why one of the biggest wildfires in the Northeast ever is now being investigated as arson. And above the fire lines, Jacob Soberoff's exclusive reporting about the high-tech research on wildfires being done from the sky by NASA. But is the program in jeopardy? Why are dolphins dying? We go to the California coast to see what's killing these spectacular marine mammals. And the two brothers whose NFL aspirations were blindsided by unthinkable tragedy. Is one of them set to fulfill their dreams tonight at the draft in Green Bay?
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome.
Tonight, the deeply moving images, more than 90,000 mourners from around the world lining up, paying their respects to Pope Francis. We'll take you inside St. Peter's Basilica tonight. Also breaking news of an arrest coming in, the massive fire in the Northeast, causing air quality concerns in New Jersey and New York City. First tonight, tens of thousands of mourners descending on the Vatican, waiting around the clock to offer a prayer, in many cases an emotional farewell to Pope Francis. Our Terry Moran takes us inside the Basilica tonight, and we hear from New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan on the secret conclave to elect a new pope. Also on this Thursday night, the arrest of the suspect accused of starting one of the largest wildfires in New Jersey in 20 years. Concerns about air quality in New York City. Tonight, Russia's deadliest attack on Ukraine in nearly a year. President Trump sending a direct message to Vladimir Putin, telling him, quote, Vladimir, stop. It all comes after the U.S. proposed to Ukraine that they give up the land taken by Russia since the invasion. Now President Trump is being asked, what is Russia giving up? Tonight, the U.S. and China sending conflicting messages over President Trump's tariffs, upending the global markets and the U.S. economy. After President Trump insisted the two sides were actively discussing tariffs, China calling it fake news. A Chinese official saying there have been no talks. Here in the U.S. tonight, the toxic scare killing dozens of dolphins, sea lions, and now the whales being affected too, right along the U.S. coast. Police say chilling video shows a teenage girl being followed by a stranger, and authorities say her quick thinking, what she said to strangers, that helped save her. And tonight, night one of the NFL Draft live right here on ABC. The next generation of stars ready to take the spotlight. Who will be the number one pick? From ABC News World Headquarters in New York.
Live from Texas, this is the Will Cain Show. Another judge, another ruling. This judge telling the Trump administration to return a second man deported to El Salvador. A judge saying a 20-year-old Venezuelan man named Christian had a court-approved agreement and should not have been deported. We'll follow the details of that case as it unfolds. It will be important to keep up with the maturation of that story. Every detail. Because every detail in the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been a small explosion in the face of Democrats. It has been a slow-motion train wreck. We're now learning new details today, including that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was pulled over driving a car belonging to a human smuggler. Quote, Abrego Garcia was driving a black 2001 Chevrolet Suburban that he said belonged to his boss. The Suburban was then identified by DHS as belonging to Hernandez Reyes, who pleaded guilty to human smuggling after being caught in Mississippi in a car with passengers from Mexico, El Salvador, and Honduras. What a turn of events. Yet the latest detail that has exploded the narrative of the Maryland father. Governor Rick Perry of the great state of Texas once made a horrendous mistake on the Republican debate stage. He wanted to name 3 departments that he would cancel as president of the United States. He only managed to remember 2. Having not learned that mistake, I'm going to walk you through now together, hopefully, the 10 steps that led to this slow-motion train wreck for Democrats. 1. Let's start with the narrative, the story, that Donald Trump has arrested and deported a Maryland father.
The Supreme Court orders the Trump administration to return the Maryland father who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador's notorious prison.
A Maryland father.
Maryland father.
A Maryland father.
He will not return the Maryland father.
Maryland father. The Trump administration claims it is not required to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father wrongfully deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador.
A Maryland father. That could be any American citizen, any father who lives in Maryland. That could be Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. It could be you. But 2, we quickly learned that Kilmar Abrego Garcia had a deportation order, a standing deportation order, yes, with a withholding standing notice not to deport him, but he had been judged as an illegal immigrant capable of deportation. And that then shifted 3, the story to the ubiquitous term you've all come to know, now a Maryland man.
A man who used to live in Maryland until he was taken away.
This issue about the Maryland man.
Maryland man. A Maryland man.
Maryland man.
The growing calls to return the Maryland man.
On this Thursday night, the specter of Trump re-enters the campaign. What he said again about Canada days before the election.
I have to be honest, as a state, it works great.
As new details emerge about what was said on Mark Carney's first phone call with the U.S. president. Tariff trouble, how American businesses are now feeling the squeeze of the trade war.
This poor guy, he retails for $28 now.
Plus, what led to the police shooting of a man at the country's busiest airport. And Pope Francis's legacy, how he reshaped the Catholic Church and how that could determine who replaces him. Good evening and thanks for joining us. The American president, whose shadow looms large over Canada's federal election, has again inserted himself into the fray. Today, Donald Trump posted this while taking a swipe at China. He said, and by the way, fentanyl continues to pour into our country from China through Mexico and Canada. And in the Oval Office yesterday, when asked if he has a prediction about the election result in Canada, Trump declined to answer, but he did repeat some of his old lines.
We can make our own cars. We have more energy than they do. We don't need their lumber, obviously. We have more lumber. We have a lot of lumber. But in particular cars, they took a large percentage of the car making, and I wouldn't bring it back to this country. I really don't want cars from Canada.
Trump hasn't said...
Good morning. The government edges closer to an EU migration scheme.
Yes, a youth mobility agreement could see a one-in, one-out system for under 30s.
Well, dozens of backbench MPs are piling on the pressure, and critics accusing Downing Street of creeping towards the EU.
That's as the Prime Minister makes it clear he sees renewable energy as Britain's key to security.
When companies are looking to invest in clean energy, when partners are looking to build new turbines, blades, cables, our message is simple. Build it in Britain.
Meanwhile, he's defying President Trump and insisting Ukraine decides the terms of any peace agreement.
From Sydney to London and Gallipoli, commemorations across the world for Anzac today on the 110th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings.
I'm live from the Australian War Memorial in the heart of London, where at dawn the Duchess of Edinburgh laid a wreath on behalf of the King. More details shortly.
Well, the King and Queen, meanwhile, are going to host a party for veterans to mark the start of VE Day celebrations.
Elsewhere, Pope Francis lies in state for a final day before his funeral. That's after the Vatican has been forced to ban selfies with the late pontiff.
91,000 people have so far made their way through the doors of St. Peter's Basilica, but Vatican guards have had to tell people that photos are now strictly prohibited after people were seen taking smiling selfies and going live on TikTok near the open casket of the late Pope Francis.
Lots of permanent visas for you and your family. Not to mention, we got this.
A GB News exclusive as it's uncovered Australian authorities set their sights on tempting over British police officers.
And is the government trying to parent the nation? As it's revealed, we feel the effects of heavy drinking by the age of 36. We're debating whether incessant public health campaigns are creating a nanny state.
And sport this morning, Jamie Vardy will move away from Leicester after 13 years, but he says he's not finished yet. The hype continues for the Conor Ben Chris Eubank Jr. fight tomorrow night. And 840,318 people applied for this year's London Marathon. Around 56,000 got in. They'll run this Sunday. The son of the founder and race director, Hugh Brasher, will join us in about 20 minutes' time.
Hello there, good morning. A rather wet day ahead for Northern Ireland, but elsewhere, a few more sunny spells. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Just gone 7 o'clock, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Sophie Reaper, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Today, 110 years since the Gallipoli landing marked Anzac Day events overseas and across the country. Our leaders condemned hecklers who disrupted the welcome to country at Melbourne's dawn service. The accused killer of a 19-year-old woman is found dead in jail as the community pays tribute to a young life lost. 12 people are killed as Russia launches a missile barrage at Kiev. US President urges Vladimir Putin to stop the attacks. And a young AFL star set to become Collingwood's youngest captain in 57 years in today's Anzac Day clash against Essendon. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Jeremy Fernandez. Thousands of people have gathered at Gallipoli on the Turkish coast to attend Anzac Day dawn service. Women have...
Hello, a very good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Coming up on the show today, Russia appears to share President Trump's optimism on Ukraine peace talks.
Plus, the government, hoping for a good news day on water, faces accusations of underinvestment.
Plus, a generational clash. I speak to the boxers reviving the Ben Eubank rivalry.
It's Friday, the 25th of April. The spending watchdog says the public have been failed by water regulators and the government, with trust in water companies at an all-time low. Russia's foreign minister says Ukraine peace talks are moving in the right direction after mounting pressure and anger from President Trump.
There are still some specific points, elements of this deal which need to be fine-tuned.
Pakistan warns of a potential all-out war with India as the fallout from a mass shooting in the disputed territory of Kashmir escalates. Plus... Princess Royal leads Anzac Day commemorations as booing at a Melbourne service sparks outrage in Australia.
Welcome everybody to my father's beautiful Boomerang country.
And in sport, Rory McIlroy made his return to the golf course for the first time since his Masters triumph. I'll have details of how he got on later in the hour.
Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining us here on The Breakfast Show. The public...
Welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. You're watching Daybreak, and I'm Catherine Biat. It's time now for a quick look at some of the top stories we'll be following this hour. Pope Francis is lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The Vatican estimates that more than 90,000 people came to pay their respects on Thursday. The Pope's coffin will remain there until his funeral on Saturday. We'll get the latest from our correspondent in Rome, Seema Gupta. Russia's foreign minister says Moscow is ready to discuss a deal with Ukraine to end the war. His comments come after Donald Trump vented his frustration, urging Vladimir Putin to stop the attacks. And India and Pakistan are in an escalating diplomatic crisis after gunmen killed 26 people in Kashmir on Tuesday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi vowing to pursue the attackers to the ends of the earth. Pope's coffin in Rome. So many mourners were waiting to see St. Francis lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica that the Vatican had to keep the doors open all night, closing for just a short hour and a half cleaning. The Pope's body will remain in the Basilica until his funeral on Saturday. For more on what's happening in Rome, we can cross there and speak to our correspondent, Seema Gupta. So, Seema, what has the past 24 hours been like in the capital, and what are the Vatican's plans for today?
Well, there are huge lines snaking their way all around St. Peter's Basilica and up to the surrounding roads nearby. People having to stand in line for hours on end, some say as much as 4 hours. And eventually they are funneled right into the Basilica and they file past the body of Pope Francis that is lying in an open-top coffin and that is on a dais right in front of the Basilica. Now, I was lucky enough to be one of those people in the Basilica.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Sun, and this are Pakistan's defense minister accuses India of a misinformation campaign, saying the government in Islamabad suspects Tuesday's attack in Kashmir was a false flag operation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed to punish every terrorist and their backers. US President Donald Trump speaks out against the wave of Russian attacks on Ukraine, the latest killing some 33 people. He asked his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to stop and, quote, get the peace deal done. Singapore Prime Minister and People's Action Party Chief Lawrence Wong urges unity and warns against any exploitation of sensitive issues during election campaigning. The Workers' Party describes the polls as a chance to build, quote, a more open and balanced country, calling on Singaporeans to vote more opposition candidates into Parliament. Ties between nuclear-armed neighbours India and Pakistan plunging amid tit-for-tat measures in response to a terror attack in Indian-administered Kashmir. New Delhi reportedly notified Islamabad that it's putting the Indus water treatment on hold with immediate effect. Pakistan warning any attempt to stop or divert water going into the country would be considered an act of war.
अगर किसी किस्म की भी डिस्ट्रप्शन हुई तो फिर पाकिस्तान को दो राइट्स हैं, एक तो उसके नतीजे में जो भी एक्शन ले वो लेगा और दूसरा कि हम भी फिर शिमला समेत जो ट्रीटीज हैं बायलैटरल उसको हम कंसिडर कर सकते हैं, उसको हम भी इन अवेंस कर सकते हैं.
That similar agreement was signed between the two countries in the immediate aftermath of the 1971 war. It laid down the roadmap for future bilateral ties. One of the principles is the respect for line of control, the boundary demarcating the position of the two armies in the contested Kashmir region. The agreement says that neither side shall seek to alter it unilaterally. Pakistan is talking of putting that treaty on hold. It has also decided to close its airspace for Indian airlines and hold special South Asian visas issued to Indian nationals. Its defense minister has rejected India's allegation that Pakistan was linked to the attack in Kashmir that killed 26 people. Khawaja Asif told Al Jazeera.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Nawaz. On the News Hour tonight, Russia for Kyiv with deadly strikes, complicating the ongoing efforts for peace.
Pressure builds on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth amid turmoil among the Pentagon's top ranks, and as new details emerge about his use of a commercial messaging app.
And why reproductive health care is tough to access in certain parts of the country, even in states where abortion is legal.
I want to be a mom. I'm scared because I'm here. This is where I live. So I'm trying to make plans to figure something else out, but it's hard.
Mourners line up by the thousands to pay final respect to Pope Francis as cars from around the world gather to choose his successor.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening. I'm Maurice Dubois. John Dickerson is in Rome, and at this hour, mourners are filing past the coffin of Pope Francis inside St. Peter's Basilica. Since the viewing began yesterday, the line has been so long, the doors are being kept open well past the scheduled midnight closing. The Basilica is shut down for only an hour early this morning for cleaning. Cardinals from around the world continue to arrive. They will be meeting next month to choose a new pope. And John, they say all roads lead to Rome, and it looks like at least one of them begins in New York.
Indeed, Maurice, we traveled more than 4,000 miles to Rome and wound up bumping into the priest from around the block. It's a small world drawn closer by Pope Francis, and for the church to thrive, it has to stay that way. As Catholics and the curious from around the world converged on Rome, we stopped by St. Patrick's Catholic American Parish to talk to the rector, who looked familiar.
Welcome to St. Patrick's. Come on in.
We were bonding over the choir at St. Paul the Apostle in New York City. He recognized this song where he had been a priest, my priest, for 3 years. Now, Father Matt Barrios.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Gaza, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reports Israeli attacks killed 50 people and wounded more than 150 others over the past 24 hours. Among the dead are 3 Palestinians who were killed when an Israeli drone struck a food distribution center in central Gaza. On Wednesday, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir claimed during a visit to the U.S. that top Republican lawmakers support the policy of bombing food and humanitarian aid depots in Gaza. After he was feted at a dinner in his honor Tuesday evening at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, Ben-Gvir wrote of the Republicans, quote, "They express support for my very clear position on how to act in Gaza, and that the food..."
Africa News. The news.
In a move seen as a last resort to prevent South Africa's coalition government from collapsing, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has dropped a controversial value-added tax increase on Thursday. His decision comes as South Africa's second biggest party, the Democratic Alliance, threatened to leave the governing coalition over their VAT increase of 2%.
The sub-Saharan Africa's economy is showing signs of resilience, with growth projected to hit 3.5% in 2025 and rise to 4.3% by 2027, according to the World Bank's latest Africa's Pulse report. This recovery is being driven by rising private consumption and investment, alongside falling inflation, down from 7.1% in 2023 to 4.5% in 2024, and more stable currencies. Despite this progress, the region still faces steep challenges. Real income per capita is expected to remain 2% below 2015 levels in 2025, and poverty reduction is lacking. Countries grappling with conflict and heavy reliance on natural resources are growing slower than more diversified economies. Job creation also remains too weak to meet the needs of Africa's fast-growing youth population. The U.S. President Donald Trump continued to predict Wednesday that the U.S. and China will reach a fair trade deal in the coming weeks. China did that U.S. President Donald Trump's assertion that the two sides were involved in active negotiations over tariffs.
Spain is under fire, accused of ignoring illegal fishing by its own fleet in West African waters. Environmental groups Climate Earth and Oceana have filed a lawsuit in Madrid claiming Spanish authorities failed to act on repeated violations near Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. At least 8 Spanish vessels reportedly switched off their tracking systems, making their movements invisible at sea. That's the direction. It's an Easter tradition. In South Africa, the Rand Easter Show at the Johannesburg Expo Centre saw visitors flock to its food stalls, fairground rides and exhibits. The annual event, founded in 1936, is particularly popular among families.
This is actually our first time at the Rand Show. We moved here from KZN in Feb, and was a bit nervous about the rides, but my husband was like, it's something we can't miss. He's been coming to the Rand Show for years, and wanted his family to experience it, so it's been great. I think what I looked forward to the most was the ocean exhibit, which was absolutely fantastic. The kids really enjoyed it. It's been a beautiful experience.
The Rand Easter Show is the largest consumer exhibition in South Africa. The theme for 2025 was Ocean Wonders, with the show including a virtual aquarium and an interactive marine world.
We refreshed our brand a bit. We really had a look at what consumers were asking for, what our visitors was asking for. And we also went back into previous editions of the shows to have a look at what haven't we offered the public yet. So that's how the brand how it became a legacy and how it continues to be a legacy, is by really listening to the people around us and online to see what do they want, what are they buying, what's new and fresh in the market, and then try and bring that to the show.
The show also has a dedicated space that hosts a wide range of government departments and public sector institutions, allowing visitors to access essential services while visiting the exhibits.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.